Have you ever stopped to consider that everything you've believed for 35, 40, or even 50 years could be a complete fabrication? Everything. Your concept of success, money, relationships, even who you believe yourself to be. What if I told you your entire life has been shaped by a program you didn't even know existed? And worse, this program was never created by you. Believe me, your current reality isn't a product of what you want, but of what was instilled within you. And today, I'm going to prove it. I lived a significant portion of my life believing I was limited. And, I genuinely thought it was true. I grew up hearing that without an education, I'd never amount to anything, that only intelligent people with degrees could achieve success. For years, I carried this with me, like a life sentence. At 26, I was earning $4,000 a year and owed $6,000. I was perpetually sick, lacking energy, directionless. I looked at my life and thought, this is what I deserve. This is who I am. But let me ask you something. How many times have you thought like that? How many times have you looked at your bank account, your bills, your life, and believed this was your destiny? How many times have you told yourself, it's too late for me? If that's ever crossed your mind, let me tell you, you're not alone. But let me also tell you something that will blow your mind. It's a lie. It's a lie you've believed for years, maybe decades. And you know what's worse? This lie didn't originate within you. It was placed there. Since childhood, you were programmed to believe in limitations, programmed to accept a standard, programmed not to question. That's why, even after years, even with effort, even working hard, nothing seems to change. Do you see that? It's not a lack of effort. It's a lack of awareness. Now listen closely. You are energy. Everything that exists is energy. Einstein said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get it. I'm not talking about cheap philosophy. I'm talking about physics. This is science. But you were never taught this. In school, they taught you math, they taught you history, but nobody ever taught you how to use your mind. And your mind is the most powerful force there is. Everything begins within it. When I discovered this, it was like a new world opened before me. I understood that the problem wasn't who I was, but who I believed I was. That was the first major turning point in my life. And I want you to feel that now. Who do you believe you are today? An ordinary worker? Someone who lives to pay bills? A parent who does their best, but feels something is always missing? Now answer me, who convinced you that this is your limit? Who told you that you can't have everything you desire? I'll tell you something that might hurt to hear. Most people you know aren't truly living. They're merely surviving. They follow a script written by someone who died years ago. They wake up, work, pay bills, and wait for the weekend to have a few hours of freedom. And that's not living, that's existing. You feel that in your bones, don't you? That's why, even when you achieve something, you still feel a void, because deep down, you know you were born for so much more. And this is where everything changes. You are not limited. You never were. You were created in the image and likeness of something infinite. This means there is a power within you that you can't even imagine. A power that can change everything. I'm not talking about motivation, I'm talking about law. Just like the law of gravity, this law works for everyone. It's the law of vibration. Everything vibrates, everything moves, nothing is still, and your frequency determines what you attract. Today, the frequency you're emitting is a result of the beliefs you've accepted as truth. But what if you could change that frequency? What if you could connect with everything you desire? I'll tell you, you can. But first, you need to do something very important. Stop believing the lie they've repeated to you your whole life. The lie that you're not capable. The lie that money is hard. The lie that you don't deserve. I lived that lie for a long time, and I know what it's like to wake up every day thinking it won't work out. I know what it's like to feel that weight on your chest. that fear of not being able to pay the bills, that fear of failing again. But let me tell you, when I discovered that none of it was real, everything changed. Today, I want you to think about this with all your might. What if everything you've believed until now is false? What if the life you've always dreamed of is waiting for you simply because you never believed it was possible? This question could be the key that opens the door to everything you desire. And I'm not saying this to encourage you. I'm saying it because I lived it. Because I came back from rock bottom. Because I proved that this law works. Now answer me, are you ready to stop living the lie? Because if you are, then it's time to change everything. Not tomorrow, not when you can. Now, I want to tell you something that happened to me. Something that for many years I was ashamed to admit. I was a failure. I'm not saying this to dramatize. I truly believed I was worthless. I grew up with the idea that I wasn't good enough. I was never a brilliant student. I lacked discipline. I lacked vision. And this was confirmed when I dropped out of school. I didn't even finish 8th grade. After that, my life was a sequence of jobs I hated, always doing what was left over, never what I wanted. I worked in factories, gas stations, changing tires, washing cars. I just did anything to survive. And for a while, I thought the Navy would be the solution. I joined, but even that didn't work out. I never even got to board a ship. I remained on land, lost, without plans, and after I left, things only got worse. At 26, I was broke. I owed $6,000. To give you an idea, that was a fortune for me back then. I earned $4,000 a year. Do the math. I owed more than I could pay in an entire year of work. And to make matters worse, I was always sick, always in pain, always tired. I looked at myself and thought, this is who I am. A failure. A man with no future. And you know what's the most painful? It's believing that you were born for this, that there's no other way out. And maybe you know exactly what that feeling is like, waking up every day without energy, with that pressure on your chest, without hope that things will change. I lived it. That's why I know it's not easy. And I believed the solution was to work more. So I tried. I worked overtime. I accepted any job. But the more I worked, the more indebted I became. Have you ever felt that? That feeling that no matter how hard you struggle, you never get anywhere? I asked myself, why me? Why is life so hard? I believed it was bad luck, lack of opportunities, lack of everything. But the truth is, it wasn't any of that. One day, something happened. I was in the fire department because, yes, after so many bad jobs, I got a position there. And it was there that a man changed my life. His name was Ray Stanford. After a conversation, he looked at me and said something I'll never forget. Bob, you're one of the most miserable men I've ever met. And he was right. I was always sick, always broke, always complaining. And he asked me a question that changed everything. Do you read? I said, no, I don't read. I can't read properly. He smiled and said, that's why you're like this. You don't know anything about yourself. That day, he gave me a book, Think and Grow Rich, and I started reading. I didn't understand everything at first, but one sentence caught me. Everything begins in the mind. I had never heard that before. I always believed that life was just luck or hard work. And for the first time, I thought, what if this is true? What if I can change my life? That question ignited something within me. I decided to believe, even without understanding. I started doing what the book said. I wrote my goal on a piece of paper. I will earn $25,000. For someone who earned $4,000 a year, that was absurd. But I wrote it. I carried that paper in my pocket, and every time I touched it, I visualized it in my mind. At first, nothing happened, but I continued. And in less than a year, my income jumped to $175,000. I got out of debt. I started living. and I never went back to that miserable life. Why am I telling you this? Because maybe you're exactly where I was, trapped, with no way out, afraid. And I want you to understand, this doesn't define you. This isn't who you are. This is just the result of the beliefs you've accepted until now. If I, a man without an education, broke and sick, managed to change everything, you can too. Now answer me. What if everything you believe about yourself is a lie? What if there's a power within you capable of completely transforming your life? Because I'll tell you the truth. It exists, and I'll show you how to use that power. But first, you need to do something very simple and very difficult at the same time. Stop believing the lie they've repeated to you for 35, 40, or 50 years. Are you willing to do that? Because if you are, your life will never be the same. You grew up hearing that you have to see it to believe it, right? That phrase seems so harmless, but it's a silent poison. It destroys dreams, limits lives, and creates generations of people trapped in a mediocre reality. Because if you only believe what you see, you're condemned to repeat what already exists. And if what you see today isn't what you want, guess what? You'll never get out of there. I want you to think with me. How many important things in your life can you not see? You can't see the air, but it's there. You don't see electricity running through the wires, but it lights up your home. So tell me, why do you think you need to see it first to believe it? That's a lie you accepted without question, and that lie cost you dearly. It stole your dreams, stole your opportunities, stole years of your life. I lived that lie for a long time. I believed that to change my life I needed money. I believed that to be successful I needed luck or a degree. But let me tell you something that will bother you. That's not true. I know people with degrees who can't pay their bills. I know lucky people who lost everything because they didn't know how to handle it. And I know simple people who understood how to use their minds and built empires. The fatal mistake is believing that circumstances dictate your life. You think you can't earn more because your salary is low. You think you can't start a business because you don't have capital. You think you can't change because you're too old. And all of that is a lie. The reality is that you are not controlled by circumstances. You are controlled by what you believe about them. And that's in your paradigm. Now, I want you to look at your life. Think about the last 10, 15, 20 years. What has really changed? Maybe you changed jobs, moved house, even got a raise. But deep down, the feeling is the same, isn't it? That constant struggle, that feeling that something is missing, that fear of not being able to cope. Why does this happen? Because you're repeating a mental pattern. You changed the scenery, but you didn't change the program. I'll give you a real-life example. Do you know why 70% of lottery winners lose everything in a few years? Because they received money, but they didn't change their minds. They continued with the same vibration of scarcity. And do you know why athletes who earned millions end up broke after they stop playing? For the same reason. Because it's not money that changes lives, it's consciousness. And consciousness doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. I also fell into this trap. When I started making money, I thought, now I'm safe. But do you know what happened? I spent everything. I went to London, gambled in casinos, spent like there was no tomorrow. Because inside, I was still that broke guy. I had money, but I hadn't changed my paradigm. And if I hadn't understood that, I would have lost everything. Now, I want you to think about something. How many times have you tried to change your life and failed? How many times did you start a diet and stop? How many times did you make a financial plan and give up? How many times did you swear you were going to save money and the following month you were in the red? This isn't a lack of willpower, it's a program, and you won't change your life trying to fight against it. You need to replace it. And that's where the key lies. What you believe controls everything. If you believe it's hard to make money, it will be hard. If you believe you don't deserve to prosper, You will sabotage yourself whenever things start going well. If you believe it's too late to change, you'll never really try. It all starts with what you believe. I know this is hard to hear because it means that if your life isn't the way you want it, it's because you accepted wrong beliefs. But I also know that this is liberating. Because if you can accept a belief, you can reject it, you can choose another, and that's what will change everything. Now tell me, how many more years will you continue believing lies? How many more dreams will you bury because you think you can't? How many more times will you look in the mirror and see someone less than they really are? I'll tell you, the mistake wasn't yours. It was the system that trained you to think this way. But from now on, if you continue believing, the responsibility becomes yours. So let me ask you, are you willing to break this pattern? Because if you are, what comes next will change your life. There's an invisible force that controls absolutely everything in your life. Every decision you make, every opportunity you take or miss, every result you have today, everything is commanded by it. And this force isn't luck. It's not destiny. It's not bad luck. It's something you don't even realize exists. But it's there, working silently, tirelessly, shaping your reality. This force is called a paradigm. Now answer me honestly. How many times have you told yourself, I know what I have to do, but I can't? How many times have you thought, I know I need to save, but I spend again, or I know I need to change jobs, but I stay here? Do you know why this happens? Because knowing isn't enough. Information doesn't change lives. If it did, anyone with a degree would be rich, healthy, and happy. But do you know anyone with a college degree, a postgraduate degree, who still lives in debt, unhappy, frustrated? So tell me, why does this happen? Because the paradigm is stronger than knowledge. What is a paradigm? It's a set of deeply ingrained beliefs and habits, programmed into your mind since childhood. It's in your subconscious, and it's what determines how you act, how you feel, and how you react to everything. It's like autopilot. And do you know what the problem is? You didn't choose this autopilot. It was installed by other people. Your parents, your teachers, society, the culture you grew up in. I'll give you an example. When you were born, your mind was like a blank page. Everything that was said around you was recorded. Money doesn't grow on trees. Whoever is born poor will die poor. You have to work hard to survive. Life isn't easy. And this became the basis of your behavior. That's why, even if today you have access to information, even if you know what you should do, you continue repeating the same patterns. Because the one who commands your life is not your conscious mind, it's your subconscious mind. Want to see how true this is? Think of someone who's trying to lose weight. The person knows exactly what they need to do. Eat less, exercise more. They know all the diets, all the methods. But at the end of the day, they're eating what they said they weren't going to eat. Why? Because their programming says, you can't. You always give up. That's just how you are. That's a paradigm. And it's the same with money. You want to prosper, you want to earn more, but your mind is programmed to believe that this is impossible, that it's wrong, that it's for a select few. I lived through this. When I started making money, do you think my life changed overnight? No, because inside I was still the same broke man. I had my bills paid, but I kept spending everything. I went into casinos and gambled without thinking, not because I was irresponsible, but because my paradigm was still one of scarcity. I didn't know how to maintain, I didn't know how to multiply. And do you know when that changed? When I understood that I needed to change the programming, not just the action. Now let me ask you, have you noticed that you've been repeating the same results for years? Maybe in different things, but with the same pattern. You earn and lose. You achieve something and then go back. And you ask yourself, why me? What am I doing wrong? The answer is, you're not wrong. You're just programmed. But the good news is that this program can be rewritten, and when you rewrite it, everything changes. And I want you to prove this to yourself now. Let's do a simple but powerful challenge. For 7 days, observe your thoughts about money. Every time you think something negative, like "I can't buy that, it's too expensive, money is hard," replace it with "money comes to me easily and abundantly." Don't just say it, feel it. Imagine what it would be like if it were true. Do this for 7 days. Why does this work? Because each repetition is a new impression on your subconscious. That's how you begin to change your paradigm. Now tell me, if you repeat this every day, do you think nothing will change? Or will you, for the first time, start taking control of your life? Because the choice is yours. You can continue on autopilot or take the controls. But I can guarantee you one thing. When you change what's inside, nothing outside stays the same. Everything vibrates. Nothing is still. Nothing. This isn't a pretty idea to motivate you, it's a scientific fact. Quantum physics proves that absolutely everything in the universe is energy in motion, from the stars to the chair you're sitting on, even your body, even your thoughts. This means that your thoughts are not just loose ideas, they are waves of energy that travel through space and come back to you in the form of results. Now, stop and think. How many times have you repeated to yourself things like, "Money is hard, it's not for me, I'll never succeed"? Every time you do this, you're emitting a frequency. And what does the universe do? It returns it at the same frequency. If you vibrate scarcity, you attract scarcity. If you vibrate fear, you attract situations that reinforce fear. But when you vibrate abundance, when you feel gratitude, when you focus on what you want instead of what you fear, you change your frequency. And that changes everything around you. Want proof of this? Albert Einstein, one of history's greatest geniuses, said, "Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get it. There is no other way." He didn't say, "Maybe it will work." He said, "You cannot help but get it." This isn't philosophy, it's physics. I discovered this in practice. In 1973, I sat alone on the couch of a small house on Maplewood Lane, with nothing but a dream. I wrote on a piece of paper, "I will build a company that operates worldwide." Now stop and think. I was alone, no team, no structure, no money, but I had a clear picture in my mind. I saw it every day. It felt real already, and I didn't give up. Years later, I got a call. It said, "Bob, we're in every country in the world." What I wrote, what I imagined, became reality. And it wasn't magic, it was law. And here's the key. You attract into your life what's in harmony with your vibration. It's like a radio station. If you tune to 98.5 FM, you won't hear 102.3. Yet most people live tuned to the wrong frequency and expect to hear the right music. They want prosperity, but they vibrate fear. They want health, but they vibrate illness. They want love, but they vibrate lack. Do you see how crazy this is? Now, let me ask you, what are you transmitting? What frequency are you emitting to the universe? Because I'll tell you, it's not what you say out loud that matters, it's what you feel. If you say, "I want wealth," but inside you fear not paying your bills, you're vibrating scarcity, and that's what will come back to you. Want to change that? Let's do something powerful. For the next 3 days, before bed, close your eyes for 5 minutes and imagine the life you want as if it were already real. Feel the emotions, see the details. If it's money, imagine your bank statement with the amount you want. If it's health, imagine yourself energetic, happy, doing what you love. If it's a relationship, imagine the perfect scene with that person. Do this with as much emotion as possible. Why does this work? Because the mind doesn't differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. Each time you do this, you're adjusting your frequency. Now tell me, is 5 minutes a day worth it to change the rest of your life? Because I can guarantee you, if you do this every day, something will start to change. Small things at first, then big ones. That's how it all begins, with a change in vibration. There's a huge difference between those who achieve everything they desire and those who spend their whole lives just dreaming. And you know what that difference is? Awareness. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's awareness. It's the ability to truly think, while most people just react. Earl Nightingale used to say, "Man simply does not think." And he was right. Most people don't think. They believe that thinking is having mental activity, but that's not thinking. That's responding to stimuli. True thinking is using the higher faculties of the mind: perception, imagination, will, reason, memory, intuition. It's when you create, instead of just accepting. Now look around you. How many people do you know who spend their lives complaining, blaming the government, the economy, their boss, their family? They keep saying they want to change, but they keep doing the same things. Want to know why? Because they don't think. They don't use their minds to create, only to react. And that's the big difference between those who win and those who give up. Want an example? Oprah Winfrey, a woman who was born into a poor family, suffered abuse, faced prejudice, and yet became one of the most influential and wealthy women on the planet. How did that happen? She understood that the mind is the key. She always talks about visualization, about keeping a clear image of what she wants, about believing before seeing. She adjusted her frequency to the life she wanted, even when everything around her said it was impossible. Now I want you to think about something. How many talents have been lost along the way? How many people as capable as Oprah, as Steve Jobs, as Will Smith gave up because they believed the lies they heard, because they let themselves be controlled by the paradigm? Maybe you know someone like that. Maybe you're experiencing this now. Maybe you have dreams that never got off the ground because you think it's too late or that you don't have the ability. But I'll tell you, that's not true. You don't give up because you're weak. You give up because you're not aware of the power you have. And you know what the most painful part is? It's that deep down, you feel you were born for something greater. You feel you could do more, be more, have more. But that voice is stifled by fear, by doubt, by old programming. So I'm going to ask you a question that could change everything. How much longer will you accept living below your potential? How long will you settle for a lukewarm life when you could live something extraordinary? Now I want to provoke you. Grab your phone, look at social media. How many people are there living the life you wanted to live? Traveling, having freedom, prospering? You know what the difference is between them and you? They decided to think differently. They decided to stop repeating patterns. They took control of their minds and changed their frequency. And you can do the same. But here's the question. Will you keep waiting for a miracle, or will you decide now? Because let me tell you a secret. No one is going to show up to save you. The change is in your hands. And if you don't do anything today, a year from now, everything will remain the same. And deep down, you know this. Now answer me. Do you want to be another one who gives up, or do you want to be one of the few who win? Because the choice is yours alone. And it begins now. The most important point I want you to take away from this is simple and powerful. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the creator of them. Everything you experience today is a result of your vibration, the beliefs you've accepted, the images you've kept in your mind. And from this moment on, you have the choice to change that. Now don't stop here. What comes next will take you to an even higher level of awareness. It's like climbing a step on the ladder of your personal growth. Each step makes you 1% better than you are now, and 1% a day transforms everything. Thank you for being here, for investing time in yourself. I'll see you in the next video. Let's continue together on this journey, because the best is yet to come. Click here because now you're going to understand something that will make everything else make sense. I'll be waiting for you in the next video.